All right, so how do these three different classes of people play into a just society? Well, Plato believed in the aristocracy. Government should be run by the best citizens. Those best citizens are those ruled by reason, our philosopher kings. These are the people who are going to be naturally most qualified. They are also going to be the people that we train to be leaders. Early on in our lives, Plato believed, and I have the idea of the age of 10 in my head, but I can't promise that that was the age that he actually said in the Republic. But around that age of 10, children are divided by the class of citizen they are. Not by what class they were born into, not by the class that their parents are. They are evaluated for natural capabilities. And those natural capabilities are the ones that land them in a particular class. So if someone is naturally motivated by spirit, then they are going to be an auxiliary. And if someone is naturally motivated by appetites, they're going to be a laborer. If somebody is naturally motivated by reason, they will be a leader. But children are evaluated to determine which part of their soul motivates them. They're removed from their parents, and they are placed in respective classes based on this, and they are educated within that group. Okay? So people are placed in their respective classes based on their characteristics, but they're done so as children so that they spend their lives being trained for this. Plato believed that because people were going to be placed in the class that is most naturally suited for their capabilities and be given a job that plays on those capabilities, that people would naturally be content with this. And again, we're not born into the class. We are placed there as a product of what I'm going to guess he's going to say is a very strict evaluation. Because once we are placed in that class, once we grow up with this education, that's it. We are there. This is called authoritarianism. No one gets to choose or change their place in society. Each individual is assigned where they will be, and as a result of that, that's where they are. This starts to make people feel uncomfortable because, particularly in our society, we want to think that we can do anything and we can, have doctors from ditch diggers and ditch diggers from doctors, and it just doesn't matter. Whatever you want to do, you get to do. Plato, on the other hand, thought that that was a recipe for chaos. He believed that society would not function harmoniously under those conditions. If you are assigned a class based on your natural inclinations and you're not allowed to change, then you're not constantly aspiring to go and do something different. And if you're not naturally craving and trying to do something different, you won't land in something that you're not good at, which would make you unhappy. It would cause dysfunction within that job. So he believed that this was going to result in a harmonious society. Does that make sense? Now, he also believed that equals should be treated equally. However, he says not all people were created equal. Now, this gets a little strange because on the one hand, what do you mean we weren't created equal? That's crazy talk, right? But on the other hand, there is a sense in which he says we're not equal. So let's talk about what he's really saying. First and foremost, he did not believe that any individual ought to be treated like garbage. Okay? No individual should be exploited or used as a means to an end or anything like that. On the one hand, he says, as persons, as rational creatures, we have an equality. But then there's this whole other sense, he says, in which we don't have an equality. We are different. There are people who are more naturally inclined to lead than others. Those are our philosopher kings. Those are our guardians, the people motivated by reason. They are different from our producers. And as a result, we may have to provide our guardians with a slightly nicer house and a little bit more money, but they have a whole lot more responsibility than our producers. Our producers aren't unimportant. His goal is not to exploit the laborers. He simply wants to acknowledge that the people that are philosopher kings are probably going to be fewer in number, and they've got a heavy load. They have to rule the city-state. So recognizing those differences and acknowledging them and treating people differently based on those differences, Plato says, is acceptable. He's not advocating slavery or exploitation. He's just acknowledging that there are differences. Does that make sense? All right. Well, in the meantime, as always, rewind, re-listen. And if you have any questions, feel free to send me an email.